So we're looking at how to make career portals work. So Eirik Øvernes from the Head of Department of Career Services, Division of Career Guidance, Norway, thank you for being here. Emma Kinsella, Head of Skills and Enterprise Engagement, Department of Further and Higher Education Research, Innovation and Science, Ireland, thank you for being here. And Frédérique Alexandre-Bailly, Director General of ONISEP in France. It's really great to have 3 different countries that have different systems and to be able to talk to each of you. So how this session is going to go, similar to other sessions, we are going to have some quick presentations where the understanding of the career portal within each different country is going to be given to you. I would like to try to have a large portion of time for questions, and that means that in the chat, you are able to put your questions in. I have some questions, but I would really like to see what you're interested in, particularly why you chose this particular session. So the order will be, we'll start with Emma, we'll go to Eirik and then Frédérique, and I will pass us through, and then we'll go to questions. So Emma, if you wanted to start us off, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Alison. So I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully this will work. So can everybody see that? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take you through this. The slides are a little bit busy, but I don't intend to get into all the details on it. So basically, just to let everybody in the audience know how career guidance works, or how information works in Ireland, is that there are 2 government departments with main responsibility. There's my department. We would look after sort of the tertiary system and lifelong learning and so on. And then there's the Department of Education, who look after career guidance in schools. So what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about is around Careers Portal as a product, as an offering, what it is, what the gaps are there, and what we're going to try and do to try and address those. So this would be really, really quick. I'm very happy to take questions at the end, of course. So I suppose this slide just gives, I suppose, a snapshot of the amount of work that has been done on looking at how career guidance information operates in Ireland. And that work has been taking place over a number of years, and it all basically comes to the same conclusion, which is that we can do better in making our system more navigable. But how we take that forward, it is a question. And because there are lots of different information sources out there, what we do to create a service that's accessible for everybody is a question that Ireland is grappling with. So Careers Portal is one of a range of offerings in Ireland in terms of career information. Their aim is to develop a sort of a central portal with all the careers, labour market information, company profiles, assessment tools, and so on, that would be needed for a full and holistic offering. What they do very successfully is give that sort of catalogue of options, particularly for school-age students. So it's a really, really good resource for people who are making their decisions about their course options after school, about their educational choices after school. And they would also have information around national occupational trends and so on. And it's really well used, really well embedded in the school community. So if you're coming to do your final state exams in Ireland, you're trying to make your educational choices for where you're going to go, Careers Portal is a really, really good resource. And it has really high take-up amongst guidance counsellors in Ireland who are working in the school sector. Where it has, I suppose, a weakness is it's not the only source of information in Ireland, so it's not a one size fits all. It's not aimed at particularly aimed at mid-career changers. It's more aimed at school age students and has more of an uptake among school age students. And the other piece of the puzzle, I suppose, is that Careers Portal is a private company. They do get some funding from the Department of Education, but they're not a state-owned entity as such. In addition to Careers Portal, as I say, there's a range of other places that people can go to find information. Some of those are very well established. For example, Qualifax provides the national course catalogue for any NFQ accredited programme. It is a course catalogue, though it's not a career guidance service. My Career Path is a project that's running on a pilot basis at the moment in a particular set of educational institutions in a particular location, and they coach people in employment through their career path journey. Fetch Courses provides a course catalogue for the FET sector, and there's a whole lot of private sector organisations also trying to do this matching piece. So it's a quite a cluttered space, and Careers Portal is definitely a leader in that space. But there's a lot going on in Ireland in that space. So I suppose all of this means that there's a very complex and well-evolved environment in Ireland, with all these actors, as you see, trying to engage people in making their learning choices. And where my department comes in is really around career decisions for people who they're out of school and they're out of the tertiary education system. Those people are quite well supported. But there are people who are in jobs that they've been in maybe for a long time. Maybe those jobs are at risk of automation, for example, or they are there's been huge technological changes in their jobs. Maybe they want to change, or maybe they just want to gain the skills that they need to continue to thrive in the jobs that they're in. So we want to help people engage more habitually in lifelong learning. And part of that is giving them a system that's more navigable. So I suppose where we are at the moment in my department is looking at where the gaps are and trying to do something to plug those gaps so that people are making informed decisions, so that they're building the habits of lifelong learning, so they're building the skills around lifelong learning in terms of their career management and their appetite to learn and so on. Part of all of this, of course, is so that there is a more seamless offering, a more seamless transition between education and the workforce, and so that the workforce is diverse and future focused and has the skills that are needed to avail of the opportunities that are presented by the challenges of digitization, for example, decarbonisation, and so on. So it's quite a big piece of work, I suppose, that we're hoping to try and do. And I suppose what we're grappling with at the moment is, whether a one-stop shop is the best solution, or whether a range of tailored solution with a doorway to them is the best solution. So that's a piece of work that we're grappling with at the moment. And I suppose, we have lots of good advice about what we probably would do in an ideal world, but those things that we would do in an ideal world do have they do have challenges. I'm not going to get into this. I mean, it's all there on the slides. So, I'm assuming the slides will be available to participants after the meeting. So rather than read you through the slide, I suppose what I would say is that we did bring together a stakeholder group to look at this. They gave us some really, really good advice about what the best in class solution would look like. We do have budgetary constraints. We do have time constraints. Somebody said to me at a meeting recently about this, that it's like boiling the ocean. It's a multi-million, multi-year solution that's needed, and we're not there yet because we have no prototype as yet as to how to do it. So what we're doing at the moment is working with one of our agency bodies to see if we can do something to prototype a pilot solution, probably in a particular sector that's a sector subject to change or is a big growth sector, and probably aimed at those mid-career people, as opposed to sort of school leavers and so on. So we're working very closely with our agencies on that at the moment in terms of design of a prototype. We do hope to launch a prototype later in this year as a pilot, so that we can then take the learnings from that and see whether we went the right direction, I suppose, and whether we should build on that or whether we should scrap that and move to something else. So it's a little bit of testing to see what the best option is. And as I say, trying not to duplicate the great work that people like Careers Portal are doing, but trying to sort of mirror it for the audience that there is a lacuna in their knowledge of. So that is, I suppose, just very speedy whistle-stop tour. So thank you very much. And I'm very happy to take questions at the end, as Alison mentioned.
Great. Thank you so much, Emma. It's really interesting to see the policy environment that Ireland is thinking about, and that idea that there's so many multiple actors, and to see sort of your thought process about that. All right, I'll hand over now to Eirik from Norway to give us a little bit of an idea of what's happening in Norway. Eirik, your turn.
Okay, so let's see. You see my screen now? Presentation?
It's coming. Yes, we do.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's great. Let's just rearrange a bit here. Okay. Yes, my name is Eirik Øvernes. I work in Norwegian Directorate for Higher Educational Skills. And I'm the head of the Department of Career Services here. And like Emma, I will give you a very short and very quick presentation of the portal or the service that I'm in charge of. I choose to actually present the service as it is, and also the development process. But we are working on a governmental level, or on a mission from the government in a way. So we are national service, which is quite important here, and public and freely available for all. Karriereveiledning.no. We offer career guidance on chat and phone. And this is by far the core of our service. 19 career advisors operate the service, and they are situated in 3 different locations in Norway. The target group is broad. It's from youngsters at the age of 14 to 15, all the way up to seniors, actually. So I guess it's more or less the same as the Irish portal. We have kind of the whole population as our target group, where job seekers, parents, students, teachers, other professionals actually get in touch with us. The biggest group under the age of 25. For the youngsters, the age up to 19, they represent like 25% of the users. As I said, it's public, it's drop-in, it's free, it's anonymous. But we also develop self-help tools on the website, as well as providing information and guidelines for professionals. We have connections to labor market information as well, and possibilities there. We have quizzes, and we have articles. The self-help tools, they actually reflect what we experience in the career guidance that we offer. And this is quite important, because common for most guidance sessions is that those who get in touch with us are uncertain about the next career move. Whether they're 15 or they are 30, 40, 50 years old, they feel kind of this uncertainty. What we have experienced for the last year in Norway is actually a tendency towards that youngsters, when they are to apply for upper secondary school, they look into further into the future actually, and want to apply for an education that gives them a secure job and a secure income in the future. And this is a change we have experienced for the last years, actually. We also have digital arrangements, and each year we reach out to quite many thousand people on webinars. So how do we develop the service? Karriereveiledning.no. Guidance via chat dominates. It's like 82% of all those who get in touch with us, and we store all the chats. And we have started to use artificial intelligence to categorize and to recognize patterns in the data sets. And we use it to analyze and to identify needs. And by doing that, we get a very deep insight into the counseling sessions. What are the needs? How do the career counselors approach guidance sessions? Which information sources are used, and so on. So by doing that, we can contribute to external knowledge base. We can we can participate, or we can use it for policy making. We improve our own career counseling, and we create and we update the content on our website, including the self-help tools, all of which contributes to an overall improved career guidance service. So what about AI? Possibilities or threats? Well, I guess this phenomenon, to call it that, is affecting us today and in the future, and will in the future. And people are already changing their behavior online. They're not Googling that more. It's kind of using AI like they use Google. Last autumn, there was a survey conducted in Norway, which said that youngsters in Norway, 40% said that AI will make them more efficient in everyday life. 31% think it's good with more use of AI in schools. On the other hand, 43% think they will become lazy or passive when using AI. And 36% say that they're demotivated by the idea that AI can be used to solve school assignments. There are pros and cons here, but whether we like it or not, we have to take part of that. We have to kind of be on the train, because another survey in Norway aimed at adults above the age of 19 said that 63% already in November last year used AI to search for information and to answer questions weekly or daily. I don't have the numbers for the kind of age for 14, 15, 16 years old, but I think the number is even higher for them. So what about our use of AI then? We have during the last 6 months, we have developed 4 tools on our website. Describe what you can. You can paste a text from CV or write some keywords, and a first draft is generated. First draft. Get help writing your job application, paste CV and text from job announcement, and a first draft. It's very important, first draft generated. And practice interview questions. Create interview questions based on the job announcements. Get suggestions for jobs. Provide suggestions for jobs based on CVs. These tools have already been taken into use in some schools in Norway and used by teachers, career counselors in the schooling systems. Also, they are being used at the county-based career centers in Norway, as well as being used by individuals. And the feedback so far is positive, because they like it that we frame these tools with pedagogical guidelines, which is something that is not done if you prompt it for yourself, because you can do that. But the use raises some ethical questions, because we addressed that people are a bit critical to the first draft they get, but we do know that it's a kind of competence being critical on a text. So that is one ethical part of it. On the other hand, can we risk that not to be part of this and take into use the opportunities that new technology brings? I'll leave that question for now, because yesterday and today we have a unique selling point that the humans behind the service. And we can say that because in periods daily and weekly, the career counselors in our service, they get the question, are you a human? And the reason why they get the question is that quite many of the way seekers, as we call them, the users, they want to reflect together with a human and not a machine. But this is today. GPT-O has already been launched, and you try it out. It's really good at writing, and it's close to feel the feeling of communicating with a real person. So what will happen in the future is, well, I don't know, in half a year, 1 year, 2 years. But the interplay and the balance between technology and the human factor, I guess, will be important. It's important today and will become really important in the future as well. That's my guess. And I think that is something that goes all the way up to the government and the policymakers as well. Be aware of this, and take it into consideration when setting up services. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Eirik. That idea of the humans behind the service and the importance of that human interaction and how important that is. I put a question in the chat saying, do people agree? Do we think there is something special about human interaction, particularly in career guidance, that can't be replaced by digital technology? It would be interesting to hear your points of view from your different backgrounds. But we won't stop there. We'll continue with the presentations, and I'll hand over to Frédérique.
Thank you very much, Alison. Hello to everybody. I'm sorry I have no slides to show the program because it doesn't exist for the moment. I'm trying to maybe first to explain you what ONISEP is doing. We are the National Agency for Career Guidance, and we report both to the Ministry of Education and to the Ministry of Higher Education. And we used to have 12 websites that we had built to answer a new policy. So we had a very specialized website, and we have been asked by the government to simplify the access to information and to education. So we will, in the end of the process, we will have only two pillars. The first pillar is a public website. The name is onisep.fr, where we have all the information about all the courses and all the most of the kind of jobs the kids can look at. And this website is free, and it's used by many people. We have 55 million people going to the website. And then we are opening next November a platform that is named Avenir, like future, but with an S in the end, which will be given, again, freely, of course, to every student entering what we call 5e, which is grade 7th in the UK system. So from 12 to, for the first year, we will do it until the end of high school. And then we will expand to students, and especially for students who need to change their choices and who want to do what we call reorientation after the first year of higher education in France. But we're supposed to go till the PhD. What this platform will do is that it will provide every student with an account that he or she will keep during the whole journey of the education, and that they can and they will have a portfolio on the platform, and they will be able to keep the data of this portfolio and to put it in the national portfolio for workers, so they can keep all their skills and use it then in the adult or work system. So something very different from what you can see in other countries is that we only address the students and not the general population. And this is very important because we aim at doing different things. The first thing is that we aim at giving an education to the students to be able to understand that career guidance means working for them. And usually in France, you have many papers in June showing students being totally destroyed by the results of the national platform for having a room in higher education, and some of them didn't get prepared at all. So before this platform, it was like by chance, if you had somebody helping you, and many students could avoid getting a real education and a real preparation for making their choices. So the first thing is to provide them with the education, and for this we have built a skill portfolio to show them what they need to do, and we have many exercises to be able to gain the skills. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that we are helping them making their first choices by giving them access to all the information we have, but not all the time. They get only the information they need at the moment they are needing the information. This is something very important because in France, you have a huge offer. I mentioned we had 12 websites. In the first data you gave this morning, Alison, you showed very interesting data about France, saying that all French students had access to data. Now, they had no problem accessing the internet, but they were quite low in accessing data. And this is because there's too many information in France. You have many information, website, private, public, and so they don't know where to go to. And so one of the aims is to simplify the access and to give only data that can be used at the moment of maturity the student is there. So rapidly, to finish the first presentation of the platform, we also have, of course, a dedicated interface for teachers, where we provide teachers with all the tools they need, all the information they need, all the training they need, and all the class management system they need for making sure that they can attend to their students. And we have also something dedicated to the managers of the whole system at each level, from the school level to the national level. So this platform has been funded by the Prime Minister, and we have been working on it for the last 3 years. And the first, it won't be a pilot because we already have a pilot that is being tested for the moment, but by little pieces. But the first version of the platform will come in November, and then we will improve it all the time because it's a 10-year plan, national plan.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Frédérique. It's really interesting to have that perspective in the process of developing and the things that you're thinking about. Also that reasoning behind the idea that, and for me, quite interesting. Yeah, in France, if you weren't in the first session, we can see 15-year-olds are saying that they're searching for information on the internet, about that idea that they're struggling to find it, and that this is something that the government is trying to fix is really very interesting. Okay, now we've got about 25 minutes. We're going to finish just after 4 p.m. Paris time. So it's now time for questions. Thank you to those that are adding in the chat. So a few people are talking about the idea of connections with humans versus AI. Adrian's saying maybe young people are going to answer that differently to older people. And we had a look at some data in the AI session that was this morning that said, yeah, young people seem to be using a lot of AI at the moment and without much encouragement, but they also do still have concerns. Ulrika adds that maybe you can attract different groups with AI and humans. So maybe AI is good for some questions and humans for other. And a lot of the research is looking at that in terms of the hybrid use. So technology and humans together, not one replacing the other, but trying to get the strengths of both and trying to harmonize that interaction. I think one of the difficult policy questions is figuring out how to develop that harmony between the technology and the humans. So what I'd like to maybe talk to, we might start with you, Eirik. In particular, you were talking about how you're using the interactions on the site to then plan for other things. So you save the chats and use that for designing. How does that work with privacy, particularly if you're working with young people? I assume that's a question a lot of people might have. How do you do the data storage? What are your concerns maybe about using that data, and how do you manage that?
Well, we are lucky to have a system within the directorate where we have access to competence on GDPR. So all our data sets are stored anonymously, and they are ripped off of anything that can recognize them. So that has been a must-have kind of during the process. So we only keep the data for a couple of days within the limits where we are lawfully can do that, and then they are stored safely in our kind of deposits, safe deposit, which is totally possible to do. So it gives us access to all the data actually from the chats on which I told you about in my presentation. And of course, it's really that is the goal of our service in a way, because we can identify all the needs and we can develop new services and new tools and so on. And I can also just say that I recognize the same challenges that Frédérique just mentioned from France. I think in Norway we are quite lucky because we have kind of a few big portals. Our website is a small one. It's quite new. It was launched 3.5 years ago, but we are developing our portal together with Norway's biggest education and career portal, actually Utdanning.no, which is really, really big, like 9 million visitors a year and close to 25 to 30 million page views a year. And we are like this close with each other. And I think that the thing that you mentioned from France, where people are struggling to find and systematize and understand information, that is quite a big challenge for a lot of those who get in touch with us and who at this point are in need of the human kind of reflection and parts and the process of meeting up with this. So the portal ID, where we connect the services in Norway, where we both have all the accessible information on the site, and we also have the possibility of getting in touch with career guides on chat and phone. I think that's a very, very effective way of going here.
Really interesting. All right, I might turn to you, Emma, now. You were talking about the idea that you're going to do a beta thing, but you're still trying to figure out which way to go. Could you maybe talk us through how you're going to measure the effectiveness? What are your measures for effectiveness? I imagine that's something difficult, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, so it is quite difficult. I think what we would like to, I suppose there are two kind of things that we're thinking in parallel. So one of them is around a sort of a shift of the dial in terms of our lifelong learning rates, because we know from work that we've done with the OECD, for example, that part of the issue for people in engaging in lifelong learning is that they just don't know. They just don't know where to go. They just don't have the information. So a shift in the dial, an increase in our lifelong learning rates would be a measure of success. The other, I suppose, which is a little bit more low key, I suppose, or immediate, is if we decide on a particular sector, and there are people within that sector taking advantage of upskilling or reskilling. So I think what we would be hoping to do there is to have some sort of baselining that we can then build on. And the partner that we're working with in SkillNet, some of that might be around leveraging, for example, a network that they might have that's dealing with a particular sector to see what the engagement levels are there, and then moving it on to see, whether the engagement levels have increased. Or it might be a sector that's sort of independent of that have come to us saying, that they have issues with upskilling or reskilling needs, but the needs are being addressed. So it's a little bit more anecdotal in that case. And all of this is quite long term as well. So it's quite difficult to measure, I think. And then I suppose the other piece is like, it's what we hear on the ground. So we hear on the ground all the time. Like part of my role is engaging with enterprise, and we have a network of people around the country who do that enterprise engagement with us for us at local level. And we hear all the time from them that small businesses in particular find it very difficult to find their way around. So it's not just the individuals, it's also sort of the enterprise that are employing those individuals, and a shift in their sort of knowledge or an anecdotal sense that they feel better informed would also be a measure of success. So there's a range of different things, but like the top line thing, I suppose, is the increase in lifelong learning.
Okay. So Frédérique, I know that you're in the process and it's getting close to the release. Could you maybe talk us through some of the key lessons that you've learned so far in this process? I know one of the goals is simplifying. How did you maybe manage those relationships with potentially other providers, and what kind of advice would you give to other policymakers that might be trying to do the same thing? Ooh, you're on mute.
Sure.
Yeah, there we go.
Sure. We're learning lessons every day. Maybe we know later which ones are the key ones. But first lesson maybe is that in the beginning, we assumed that we could use kind of the same words and language for all ages. And we realized that what we had designed for 15 years old didn't work for 12 years old. And so we hopefully we work on our design basis. So we test everything with real students. So we realized that they didn't understand at all what we were talking about. So the first lesson is to make sure that the users understand the words that you are using. And in the beginning, we thought it was only a kind of looking at the user journey on the website or on the platform. But it's not only the journey. It's also really each word you use to make sure that every kid understands it. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson is, of course, the huge focus you have to put on the interaction between the teachers and the system. And I have listened to the Australian experience about convincing school by school that with the Become that it is really interesting to use career guidance issues inside the curriculum, because it makes you more concrete. You don't say concrete in English. Concrete is better. I mean,
no, we do. That makes sense. Makes it more concrete.
Makes sense. It makes sense for the kids, so they engage more. It's meaningful, and it's not only. I mean, in France, we have this vision that career guidance is something aside. And so maybe the one of the key lessons I can take from the moment is that it takes a long time to change the culture and to convince school by school and politician by politicians that career guidance is a good deal, because it makes sense. And it helps students make choices that will make them successful. And you know that when France first decided to have a new national portal for admission, the main reason why we chose to change the portal was that students were failing in the first year of higher education. So we thought that they had not the good information about the programs they were choosing. And it's far more complex than this. And so I think that really the main lesson that I can take with me is that though we're really improving in convincing the actors that it is important, career guidance comes always second to any priority. And that's quite difficult to live every day when we're in this sector. I think we can share this, except for the countries where it is really the first rank, but I'm not sure it is always. And it is often reduced to a kind of discussion between companies on the one side who are wanting to help, really, and who are also building websites about the different jobs they can offer, and the Ministry of Labor. I'm not sure it does exist in every country, but the Ministry of Labor emphasizes the demands of companies, and will ask the ministries of education and higher education to do best. But they also ask to do best in terms of teaching how to read and do math. And you can go back to PISA. Yes.
Yeah, look, that's really interesting, Frédérique. I think Eirik has put his hand up, so I think maybe he has something to add.
Yeah. I was I was just being a bit inspired from hearing from your lessons learned, because as a kind of a new service, we established from point zero in a way, and established this career guidance service in Norway. There are a few lessons learned when I had a look in the back mirror in a way. One thing is about the concept of career guidance, as you talk about. You have to make it kind of more familiar and more well known in the population as something which affects everybody. Actually, everybody has a career. But at the other side, career is quite it's kind of what do you say? It's a concept that not everybody is familiar with, in a way. But we are lucky to have a directorate who has a cross-sector responsibility for career guidance in Norway, actually. And has also developed a national framework for career guidance, which is used across different sectors, across and with different actors in Norway, actually. And that is a way of everybody getting more and more familiar with a common set of ideas and concepts related to career guidance. So this goes out to all the policymakers. Try to put it up a bit high level and see whether you can do it on a national level, because that is also a way of setting different actors together and have a common understanding of the concept. And of course, we have many more lessons learned, and this one also goes out to the policymakers. Make sure that data are being shared, because we have all
shared with who?
Made accessible, so that it is possible for us to set up good services that are connected to each other from the baseline, in a way. If you have good data sharing on the bottom, then you can also develop good services up. So that has been a challenge in Norway, actually, but it's getting better and better.
Great. I don't know, Emma, did you want to pop in and talk about maybe some lessons learned at your current level as well?
I suppose just to echo, I suppose what both colleagues have said, two things just that occur while I'm listening to you. The first piece is, of course, that there's a conception, I think, amongst a lot of stakeholders that career guidance is the answer to everything. But there is a reluctance sometimes to put their money where their mouth is. So there's that piece. The other piece, I think, is around what Eirik was saying around, sort of accessibility and sort of not doing something, not even in terms of the delivery of the service, but even in terms of the design of the service, and having people around the table and not sort of holding behind a door what you're hoping to achieve, and talking to people about that kind of thing. And I suppose the final piece that I'd say, just from an Irish perspective, is that, the partnership is really, really important in this. And from my point of view, like, we have a kind of a whole continuum of lifelong guidance in Ireland, starting quite early. But we've recently brought together, like, in fairness to the Department of Education, they really drove this piece of work around putting together a strategic framework around guidance, to bring all the actors to the table, so that the different sort of public sector actors, ourselves, the public employment services, people who be dealing with the community with disabilities or special additional needs, so that we're all sort of talking to each other and not doing pieces of work in a silo. So that kind of has been a really positive thing for Ireland, I think. And we recently had a stakeholder event, with practitioners, where all of the government departments came together and sort of presented on their work. And it was really successful because it really embedded that message that we're all working together. I think that's it sounds so simple, but it actually is really, really important and quite difficult to get right. So yeah, I think that's just a real lesson learned from ourselves.
Really interesting. I think that importance of bringing those actors together. We were talking earlier about private and public partnerships and how that can actually, if it's not working well, it can really hinder some of the digital technology and career guidance. But even that idea of getting all the public sectors working together, not working in silos, making sure that people know what the issues are, and then working productively towards that. Now, there have been some questions in the chat. If you're here and you have a question, now is the time to ask. We've got about 10 minutes left. The questions are sort of talking to reaching new groups using AI, how AI can support potentially people that might not have been able to reach out to this. I thought, Eirik, you mentioned AI and that in Norway you've been putting that into place. I'm not sure in France or in Ireland if AI, I assume it's being talked about, but maybe it's not at that level. But Eirik, did you have any thoughts? Why did you choose to use AI? Was it just because it's new and there, or was there some reasoning behind it?
Hopefully there's some reasoning behind it. Yeah,
I hope so.
and not just jumping into it uncritically. I think that it's important to have kind of a constructive, critical approach to it, actually. And at the other side, we also must dare to try it out in a way. We have launched, like I mentioned, four tools by now. But what I think is the major challenge, actually, is how do we actually face the challenge that AI is coming now and is being used as people used Google before. Instead, they are searching for information and get the answers by using GPT, for instance, and it's quite good and it's easy accessible. So how do we as portals actually survive in this landscape? Because we have optimized our text, our searches. We come up really high up on Google searches in Norway, both we and our neighbor portal. But will we actually be visible on when people start to use GPT? That is quite a kind of a risk. So we are looking into the possibility of putting searches on our services that is kind of similar in the way of using as people use the GPT in a way, because we have to make it really easy accessible. And that is also an argument for good data sharing, that we kind of have control over the data and we can assure the quality behind the service, actually. So the quality aspect, I think, will also be of major importance, actually, in the future for portals like ours.
Yeah, really interesting. And Sam, thank you for your comment. Sam has commented just saying in Northern Ireland, we are in the early stages of looking at AI and similar technology to improve access, particularly for autistic people, to the career services. So that sort of that comment brings me to the idea of equity. Sorry, I know there's an equity session there, but I think with government services, there is that idea of how are we making sure this service is accessible? How are we making sure it's reaching the people that need it most? Frédérique, you spoke about the age and making sure the language was different. In terms of other potential barriers to using the services, have you been thinking about how to make sure students with those barriers are able to access, and how have you addressed that?
Yeah, something I haven't mentioned is that Avenir is a whole program that is really based on the interaction with the teachers and all the adults that deal with the young ones. And so, for example, we've been working, maybe two answers to your question. We've been working with the educators that work with the kids that are being separated from their parents for violence issues or things like this, in order to develop for them the tool that they will need to help the kids they are looking after in the real conditions in where they are. For example, those kids, before they were just helped by the state until the age of 18. Now it's under the age of 21. And so they have very specific issues about trying to make a living very quickly. And so they lower their ambition. And they don't consider at all other ways of financing their life. But there are ways to be an apprentice or to get money from the state to study further. So we are addressing specific issues, both in the way the educators can help them and both in the kind of information they really need. So that's the first example. We do the same thing for kids who are in jail. They have also special issues. And we are working with the National Association who is dealing with very poor people. who really have specific issues about choosing where to go. And here, it's not only the main choices every kid have to do, it's also the fact that usually very poor people in France will likely be put aside and have very bad results. Again, the PISA differences between the social categories. And so we're working with special communities, and we are working also with the counselors who help the young who quit school to develop a career after school. And this is something very interesting because we don't think for the moment that they will use the same system, but we want them to be able to read the portfolio and to speak in the same language, to take the young where he was, and to put in their head that it's not because you drop school that you dropped your future. So this is an example of the people we're working with to develop specific things for them. And the second example is the way we work with complements to Avenir, because Avenir will be like the base of the national career guidance policy, but you can add special services. So for example, we are discussing with a company who is recognized by the state to explicite more accurately the steps that a kid who has difficulties in learning has to take to understand something. And so this company will be able to put its system on the platform for the kids who need it in special need classes. So these are examples of how we address equity. Of course, we have the same issues about gender than everybody, but this is how we are, some of the things we're doing concerning equity.
Great, thank you so much. Now, we've only got a couple of minutes left. I think, Frédérique, it was interesting that idea of school leavers or people that have dropped out of the school system. I think that is often a community that is difficult to reach, and that idea of separating your career and your job from your schooling career and how that's important. That's something, a key takeaway for me to be thinking about those people. All right, so we've got 2 minutes left. I'd like to go, I'll go first to Emma, then Frédérique, and then Eirik. Maybe if there's a policymaker here, if you wanted, I don't know, one key piece of information for them to take away from this session from your experience. I know it's hard. Emma.
I suppose one key piece that I would take away is that you can be a victim of your success. So in Ireland, we are very successful at, educating our young people very highly. We have a really rich offering of different types of learning and so on. And that's what makes it hard for people to navigate the system, because people are tied to a concept of how they should learn through, university degrees and not through necessarily other pathways. They tend to forget that once they've left university or that formal system, that there are still opportunities available to them, and the opportunities are so myriad that they're hard to navigate. So if I was designing a skills ecosystem again from scratch, and if there are policymakers in the room who have that luxury, I would say try and make it as simple as you can to navigate as early as you can, because otherwise you're going to be like me, trying to navigate 17 different portals and bring them together to make sense out of.
Thanks, Emma. Frédérique, key point?
I'll try to keep it very simple. I would like to convince policymakers that a good education for a career is the key for all the issues we have in school today. And it can bring well-being, engagement, and the rebuild of the French social link.
I would like to say them to take that piece of advice as well. Eirik,
final
piece of advice.
I think I follow in the kind of footstep of Frédérique, because I want the policymakers to really put career learning, career competence up as a kind of a subject or cross-sector subject from secondary school, because we're talking about lifelong learning. We're talking about a future where you have to update your competence all the way, whatever it means. which means that you actually have to be able to reflect upon your own skills, your own interests, and you have to put it together with all the opportunities. So please put it on the subject and put it on the system of secondary school level and all the way through the schooling system. Yes.
Really interesting. Look, thank you so much, Emma, Frédérique, and Eirik, for your time today, for your advice. I wish you luck in the future developments of all of the portals and things that you're doing. We are obviously looking on in interest and hope to be providing help as well. Thank you so much to those that joined us for this session, for your questions, and I know you're working hard as well, so I wish you luck in your systems as well. If you have any questions, do reach out to us. That's what we're here for. The video